Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to another live stream. This is our winning drive live stream with the coach Bob Shipley. I'm Rod Babers, and my man CJ Vogel, the prodigy. We're talking a lot about Texas football, Texas big game coming up versus the Michigan Wolverines. We're also going to get into Steve Sarkisian's media availability. He had a Zoom availability with the media earlier today, so we'll talk about some of his comments there as well. But of course, most of the discussion will be about Texas versus Michigan. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Really appreciate your participation, and we appreciate all of your support here on Texas football. All right, gentlemen, let's start off things. I got a question for you, Coach. What did you think about the turnover sword that the Longhorns broke out in the game? I never asked you about that. I want to get your thoughts.
What?
The turnover sword they had. The guys had a turnover sword.
Oh, yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, it's all fun and game. It's all fun and games until somebody gets stabbed in the gut with that thing. Honestly, that's first I thought of, because when you're like the head guy, you're like, okay, what could possibly go wrong here?
I assumed it was a dull sword. I know it's got a name now. My man CD sent that to me. That I guess it's named Excalibur, and it's something that Johnny Nansen brought over with him. There you go. See, CB already knew Excalibur. It's gonna be making the trip too. What are your thoughts, CJ, about the turnover sword? I didn't even know it had a name. Now it's got a name. I feel like we got to support it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if it helps get that defense, a little bit eager to create some turnovers, I'm all for it. I didn't think Texas would become one of the big prop teams when it comes to turnovers. Hey. We saw the turnover chain, and I think UNLV's got a slot machine or something like that. SMU throws a big bottle service party. I mean, some schools go above and beyond. I like the sword. I mean, the kids got fired up, and they got to do it twice. So hopefully, it's something that inspires more turnovers. I'm all for it, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know about it. I'll admit I was ignorant. CB let me know that he sent me the tweet from the Longhorn football, the Texas football account that said, hey, welcome to the party, Excalibur. So I'm with Coach. I assume it's dull, but it can't be too dull because they literally stick flattened footballs on it. So I don't know, but you know what?
Unless they've already cut those balls beforehand, they just slide on there. I'm serious. Yeah. I'm serious. Having a razor sharp sword on the sideline, I mean, it's a couple of things that could go wrong. Okay, I'm just telling you, a couple of things that could happen. You get pissed off. Here comes a guy from the other team, late hitting one of your guys. You just throw up the sword. I mean, a lot of things that could go wrong with that.
Coach, they're just making sure they got one on the sideline for whenever they go up to Kyle Field, right?
There you go.
The A&M guys that walk around with their little toothpicks.
They do. You're right about that. No, I remember you're right. It's been crazy. My man CV says you can blame Manny Diaz when he was at Miami and had the turnover chain that started all this. Yeah, I do remember the turnover chain. I remember the turnover chainsaw too. I believe Oregon State had a turnover chainsaw. They broke out. It was just kind of crazy and wild. Anyway, we'll get into it. But I didn't know that, and I apologize. We didn't talk about Excalibur a little bit earlier, but hopefully we see a lot of Excalibur versus Michigan, because if we do, and that's a good thing. That means the Longhorns are forcing a lot of turnovers and getting some takeaways. So we'll get to some more Texas-Michigan conversation. And, of course, we'll get to your questions and comments. But first, I want to get to some things that Sark said in the Zoom availability that he had with the media. It was interesting because – and I saw the quote from you, CJ, and that's what made me think about it. And I was like, whoa, I got to hear this actual quote from Sark, where he said that he actually enjoys being the villain. And it started to talk about embracing being the villain. We've heard CDC talk about this too, that the University of Texas kind of has to embrace that role at one time. Matthew has the audio for us, Sark, saying that there are times now, and maybe this is one of those times, when you're on the road, everybody's rooting against you. You'll have, I don't know, what's the capacity there at the Big House, guys? 107,000, whatever it is.
A lot, yeah.
A lot of them rooting against you. On the road, it's y'all against the world, that kind of mentality. And Sark says he kind of enjoys quieting the crowd. He enjoys, being the bad guy on the road. Here's Steve Sarkisian.
Actually, my OMG moment came as a player. I was a player at BYU, and we were pretty good. I think we might have been 2-0, and we had beaten A&M in week 1. We had, I think, beaten like Arkansas State or somebody in week 2. And we went to Washington, and we went into Husky Stadium, and it was so loud. that I just hadn't been in an environment that was loud like that. I ended up getting sacked, I think 7 or 8 times. We got beat, and that was our only loss that year. We went 14-1. But in that moment, you know, there's another level in your mind. You go to, wow, there's another level of what opposing stadiums can feel like and be like. Especially when there's some hatred towards the opponent when you walk in for whatever reason. People can generate hate in a lot of different ways. And so for me, now I've learned to relish those opportunities. There's something that I kind of relish being the villain. I kind of like going in there thinking, man, there's 100 versus 120,000 and we're the villain, and it's okay being the villain, you know, and how do we create that, you know, that deafening silence, and how do we go about that? And that comes about by our style of play. That comes about by our execution. That comes about by sticking together, playing as one. But I love those opportunities. As much as I love playing at home, I like that too, because I think you find out a lot about yourself and a lot about your team.
All right. I like that. Coach saying he enjoys going on the road and being the villain on the road now. What are your thoughts, Coach? How do you get your team ready for a tough road environment? What's the toughest road environment you had to get your team ready for, a coach, and or that you've ever, as an opposing coach, had to experience?
Well, a much smaller venue, much smaller stakes, but you know, still some pretty fun high school games. When I was at Coppell against South Lake Carroll.
Oh yeah, big.
Brownwood, Stephenville. You know, some of those games are fun, but you know, as in college, I never was a head coach, so I never had to worry about getting a team up. But I love the way it seemed like last year we started kind of saying us against them, whatever. I don't remember what the mantra was exactly, but it was, you know, is that what it was? Us against the world, something. I don't remember what the exact thing was, but it was the same kind of thing that, you know, bring on the hate, whatever. Everybody's going to hate us, you know, bring it on. We'll embrace it. And, you know, it's obviously worked for them. I think we played well in some big games, and going to Tuscaloosa last year. And if we can recapture that atmosphere and that, you know, thing, aura that he had going in that locker room before the game, then that's obviously a good thing. If he's learned how to bottle that lightning, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. With the Texas brand, you got to embrace the hate. You got more people that are hate watching that game, hoping Texas will lose the game, than are watching Texas, supporting Texas, rooting Texas on. That's just the reality of it. And CJ, you're going to be up there in that environment. I believe Danny Davis said it might be the biggest stadium crowd that Texas has played in front of in the history of the program, if it ends up selling out to capacity potentially. And that could be really intimidating. Even Sark's talking about getting intimidating on the road. They are defending champions. The crowd's going to be hyped. Texas playing them for the second time in the program's history. How much of a factor do you think their crowd's going to be? Do they have the ability to be a 12th man, in your opinion, Michigan up there with Texas and the experience Texas has, and, you know, a third-year starting quarterback? Will Quinn and the offense be disrupted because of that?
You know, Michigan's not known necessarily as one of the louder stadiums, but if anytime there are 110,000 fans, you know, cheering loudly against you, you're going to hear it, right? You know, it's just, you know, human nature. That's how noise works. And so I know they're not necessarily up in the conversations with Auburn or Oregon or LSU or Clemson or whoever you want to include in that loudest, you know, most hostile environment conversation. That's still a lot of people, right? You know, a couple of things are working for Texas here, right? You have the helmet communication, and two, it's at 11 a.m. So, you know, if this game was under the lights, like Texas will have to play at some point later this year, most likely against Texas A&M, right? You're going to have that communication, those signals on the sideline, that, you know, heightened intensity on what your focus is for the game calls for your communication, because that just, for whatever reason, noise seems to be louder under the lights. Yet the intensity just gets louder as well. So I think we'll one thing that Sark also mentioned was, there were 46 players on the team a year ago that went to Tuscaloosa, that played in that game, that are on this team right now, that will be making the trip to Ann Arbor on Saturday. That has to mean something, right? I know it's not the entire team. I know it's not the same team. A lot of turnover from guys going to the league to guys transferring out to guys transferring in. But at some point, 46 guys will have been in a situation very similar to this on the road early in the year, where they know what's at stake and what the assignment needs to be. Coach, I wanted to ask you this because, you've been around where you have to pregame and prepare and game plan for going on the road against a team like Michigan, or a team that has a daunting home environment. What does that week of preparation look like? How many extra details or little tricks and, tidbits go into making sure that your communication's right, or, you're back and forth with the quarterback and the head coach are on point there? Because pre-snap penalties will kill drives.
Yep.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks obviously are going to they're playing in environments like we're going to be playing at Saturday morning. We'll have crowd noise playing the whole time. I don't know that it's best to necessarily have music playing, but have crowd noise playing so loud that you can't hardly hear yourself. And then you've got to go in and you've got to have each other's back, because as you said, there's going to be 110,000 or however many there's going to be in there that are going to be hostile fans towards us and they're going to be booing against us until we can shut them up. And so I think you get your team together, you huddle them up. It's us against them, as we were talking about. We have each other's back. All that stuff that's going on out in the stadium and in the world of college football, turn the volume down on all that stuff. Turn the volume up on what our theme is, what our game plan is, what the intensity level we want to set is, and you focus on that, and you don't get distracted by all the other stuff.
Yep. Keep the main thing, right, Coach? Keep the main thing, the main thing. Right. Yeah, helps to have a lot of guys who went to Tuscaloosa, like you said, though, CJ. So they won't be shocked, and they won't be unfamiliar with a really ruckus and a really big time home field advantage, which of course Michigan will have with all those fans. All right. Thank you guys for all the questions. We'll get to them. How about this super chat from It's 420 somewhere? Damn right it is. How about that? It says, thank you guys for all the hard work. Shout out to Cooper Manning for trolling Michigan before the game. At Rod, are there any receiving threats that scare you outside of Loveland for Michigan? Yeah, the rumor is, and I don't know, CJ, you've done some, sure, your own investigative work. The rumor is that Cooper Manning essentially paid some hotel employees, or paid for some hotel to put up a Longhorn flag or Longhorn flags outside of the hotel. And this is a hotel that's close to the campus, or at least right there in the heart of Michigan territory. That's the rumor. You guys let me know if I'm not saying it's real. That's the rumor. CJ, have you heard this rumor?
I saw the tweet. I don't know if it was Cooper Manning or not, but I did see that there are Texas flags, I believe, flying over
Graduate. It's the Graduate.
I think it's the Lowe's Hotel, Rod, somewhere in Michigan. So I don't know if Texas is staying there. I don't know what the situation is, but for anybody that was walking the streets in New Orleans where Texas was staying, they had a bunch of UT flags out there. I know that's not entirely a foreign territory with it being a bowl game. But Texas fans do like to plant their flag. And, I'm sure the other school that's known for planting their flag is rooting for Texas this weekend as well. And that's Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, it's just a rumor that was the case.
There we go.
I think it's there you go. That's what I saw too, just for rumor. And if it is, either way, it's awesome. I'm glad the Mannings are fully invested in trolling other brands. That's great with the Longhorn brand. That's pretty cool. All right, to the other part of the question here from It's 420 somewhere. Are there any receiving threats that scare you outside of Loveland? And frankly, no. And CJ, you let me know. You can obviously dive in here too, and you too as well, Coach. But I've done research on the players, and Tyler Morris is a guy that I think he caught 11 passes for you a year ago and had 3 receptions in that game versus Fresno State. They got a couple of other players who they Samaj Morgan is another player last year. I think he had a couple of receptions and I think 22 receptions, something like that last season, and had a couple of receptions versus Fresno State. But they don't plan on being prolific via the passing game. So they're just not going to have a lot of productivity that way. Everything runs through Colston Loveland via the passing game, and that's the way they like it. Most of the passing game is short, maybe. I don't even know if it's short to intermediate. It's just short. Yeah. What did you say? They threw 5 passes total, at least 10 yards or more versus Fresno State. And ideally, I don't know if they'll have that many more deeper vertical passes against Texas. So they don't. And I hate to sound like we're trying to simplify their passing game and make it really rudimentary. But CJ, you've done the research as well. There are not a lot of proven commodities in the passing game other than Colston Loveland.
Yeah, and they're going to find ways to get the ball vertically down the field. They have to. They threw passes beyond 25 yards 3 times. They just weren't anywhere near the wide receivers, and another one was intercepted, right? So it is a part of their game. They kind of want to lull you to sleep, kind of get that secondary, kind of looking at the backfield, get their eyes back there. You'll see deep play action fakes and then huck the ball down the field. The issue is I don't know if they'll create separation with their wide receivers unless they were hustling on film, right? Unless they just weren't showing their A game. And that could be the case, but, only 1 reception over 10 yards. It's interesting. There wasn't a lot of production out of Samaj Morgan a year ago. You mentioned only 11 receptions out of Tyler Morris. I think Tyler Morris is probably the most talented wide receiver on this team. But again, that's not necessarily their MO. So where does their separation come from? Who creates the big play? And right now, why am I to believe that Torrey Horton wasn't the best wide receiver amongst these 2 teams that Texas will have played through 2 weeks? I know that he at least has production and NFL looks at the next level. I think with the way that Texas game planned for Horton a week ago will be very similar to what we see them kind of come in and shift that towards the interior against a Colston Loveland, right? Take away what they like to do. That's the slants, that's the outs, that's the curls. If you're able to do that, now what does that mean? You're going to have to throw the ball down the field vertically to Colston Loveland, who great tight end, but can he beat a Jahdae Barron-Rod? Can he beat a Derek Williams going vertically? That's the big issue right now because they don't necessarily have a 2 or a 3 that draws a lot of attention game plan-wise coming into this game.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's gonna be. I think you got to watch for the double move, Coach. I think you'll get a double move early on. They know Texas is going to be aggressive. And CJ just said it. The short, quick game. That's what they can depend on to at least be a catalyst for them in a passing game. And I think Texas will either be sitting on those routes or they'll be playing some aggressive press coverage at times. If that is the case, the double move. That's in there. That's a way to get Texas off being a little bit undisciplined or maybe just being overly aggressive. That's kind of where I think they're going to go early on in a play action pass, as CJ said, to really catch them undisciplined eyes. And that's a way to get a cheap one, get cheap chunk yardage against Texas.
Yep. And not only that, you get them on their heels a little bit. It's not the MO for Michigan to do that. Now, all of a sudden, they got you on your heel a little bit, showing you some things they haven't done yet. And I think that'd be a good game plan. I think that'd be a good strategy on their part, especially if they're having any trouble running the ball.
Yep. And that's the question too. Will they be able to run the ball? If they can run the ball, that really will change the entire complexion of the game for Texas. Opens up the playbook a little bit for Michigan. All right, getting back to it. We got another super chat here. Jerron DeWall, thank you very much. Appreciate the super chat. Says, how much man coverage will we see Texas play? That, Coach, I'll throw that to you. When you see a team with a power identity offensively, power football identity offensively like Michigan has, they're going to throw a lot of power sets at you, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 22 personnel, 21 personnel, and fewer spread looks and presentations. Do you try to lock it up in man? Do you take that chance and play man free? Or do you zone it up at times? But when you got to stop the run, what's the best coverage you think to go to?
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily like to go straight to man because you're obviously taking some guys out, chasing receivers downfield that are just running you off. Whereas you could in zone, you could have defensive backs over the top helping in case a run breaks through or they find an open lane or whatever to minimize a long gain. But there are going to be some times where you do need to bring some people, and you're going to have to man up on the outside, and you hope they don't have time for a double move route or a route that's slower developing. As long as we can kind of stay back in zone a little bit and have some help, because we're going to need help. We've all talked about this, been talking about it all week. We have to stop the run. We have to stop what they do best. And so for us to do that is to have as many people around the ball as we can. And you can't do that if you're chasing receivers down the field.
Yeah, that's one of the issues, Coach, that I think Texas could get bit on, right, is when you do load up to go up against a 12 or a 13 personnel, if you're in man coverage and you're asking, perhaps a heavier front seven to play man coverage on some tight ends. Well, what have they been hearing all week, all offseason, really? Well, Michigan likes to run the football. Those eyes are going to be in the backfield because they know that's what Michigan likes to do. So maybe it's not Colston Loveland. Maybe it's not the two wide receivers Texas needs to be worrying about. It's, tight end 2. It's tight end 3. It's a fullback. It's the guys close to the line of scrimmage that you don't necessarily perceive to be a big wide receiver threat leaking out somewhere into the secondary, somewhere where, on a wheel route, we saw Florida State not know how to, touch a wheel route all week, right? And they just went back to the well. Boston College did. Texas, I look at it for the guys that fill onto the field for Texas against the 12 and a 13 personnel. That's going to be Mo Blackwell. It's going to be Leon Galafal. You're going to see Jahdae Barron moved into the box with the Jalen Gilbo at times. Maybe one of those safeties spun down to give you the presence of a heavier look as well. Whoever has eyes or responsibilities on a tight end 2 or a tight end 3 at the time, they have to make sure that they're not dead set on the quarterback or the play action fake, because then, boom, what do you see? A guy in a different color jersey running right by your face. And if it weren't for an incredible play by Jahdae Barron in week 1, right, what did we see, Rod? We saw Andrew Makuba's eyes stay a little bit too long in the backfield. Yeah. Torrey Horton runs right across his face on a post route. And again, if it weren't for an incredible play by Jahdae Barron, that completion probably goes for about 50 yards. So that's one of the areas in which I'm sure it's being hounded on a little bit in preparations this week. But it's, I would say one of the more underrated aspects in which Michigan could beat you.
Yep. No, I like that too. The other guys, right? Not the guys we've been focusing on, the other guys that Texas has not necessarily been game planning for. That's who, I can definitely see surprising Texas with some of those plays. And for some reason, I got a double pass in my mind. I got a stalk block and go in my mind, Coach, something like that. I got that feeling that that's what Michigan's going to do early. I feel trickery early. I know why. I feel it in my bones. The double moves and stalk block and go double pass. I just feel like they're going to use that nervous energy against Texas. They want to try to use it, and they know Texas is going to come in there aggressive, and they're coming there excited, and you can use that against some teams, especially when you throw in some a little trickery, a little deception. All right. Thank you guys for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Before we continue here, let's thank our good friends at Hardgrove Roofing, ladies and gentlemen. Hardgrove Roofing, they have offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course, the great state of Texas. Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, ladies and gentlemen. Plus, they're Longhorn friendly with partners like lifetime Longhorn Bert Auburn and lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. And how about this? You can get a free roof inspection right now from Hardgrove Roofing. So if you think something's going on with your roof, no need for you to worry or stress about it. Just get our friends at Hardgrove Roofing to get a look at it, and that can be a free roof inspection for you. So Hardgrove Roofing, give them a call, 512-645-3202, or visit them online at hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof with Hardgrove Roofing. And like I said, you get a free roof inspection right now if you call our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing at 512-645-3202. Thank you very much to Hardgrove Roofing. My man CB says, Rod, did you have a preference kickoff time? 11 a.m., 2:30, or prime time? See, 11 a.m. is too early. CB, that's too early, man. Then I'm getting up. Coach coming to wake me up at like 5 in the morning for 11 a.m. kickoff because they want to get you at the stadium. What's it, Coach? 3 hours before. They get you there 3 hours before kickoff. So I'm at the stadium at 8 a.m. That means they got to get me up to eat breakfast. They want me to eat breakfast and have it digest. So I'm eating breakfast at like 6 in the morning. So what, for 11 a.m. kickoff, Coach, what time are you waking the guys up? Like 5 a.m., something like that?
Yeah, well, you're probably going to be eating 4 what is it? You're going to be eating your pregame meal 4 to 4.5 hours before.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. So that's pretty early. But most guys, my experience, they like the 2:30 game.
The 2:30.
You're not up too early. They don't like the 7 o'clock, 7:30 game because you got to sit around all day long.
Yep.
You wish you could sit around all day long and watch football, but the coaches don't want you to do that. They want you to stay busy, keep your mind on the game, so they keep you in endless meetings all day long.
Walk through all day.
And 11's not bad because even if you're playing, especially if you're playing in Ann Arbor, you're not going to get home when the sun's coming up the next morning, and so all that stuff kind of plays into the psyche of what time we're playing. I just know you hate to play a 7 or 8 o'clock game on the road at night. It's horrible because that sun's going to be coming up when you get home.
Yep, I agree. It's like that little Three Little Bears story. 7 p.m., 8, that's way too late. 11 a.m. is way too early. That 2:30 is just right, man. It's perfect. You get a chance to get up, relax, eat casually, and then kind of naturally get ready for the game where you don't feel rushed. But yeah, I never like the night games. You're waiting around. The coach is right, man. Waiting around you get too anxious. You start getting your butterflies.
2013, we went out and played in Provo against BYU, and we had about a 2-hour rain delay before the game started.
Mm-hmm.
And Taysom Hill set some kind of all-time rushing record against us that night.
Yeah,
and it was miserable. We literally got home the next morning as the sun was coming up, and Manny Diaz got fired on the tarmac.
I remember that
at the airport in Austin. That was a long, long weekend.
Yep, Coach, I was on the sideline for that game. I was doing sidelines at the time, and you're right. That was miserable. Oh man, Taysom Hill. Still remember him, right? Hey, see, Brett, you're right about that, man. See, nursery rhymes. I'm making sports analogies and stuff with nursery rhymes. Probably not good. Thank you for Ski Brett. Appreciate you. All right, let's get back to it here. How about this one from Tyler Rolo? Says plus minus 6 catches for Ryan Wingo on Saturday. Ooh, how you like that? I mean, he did lead you in yards and yak yards versus Colorado State. CJ, what are your thoughts? Ringo, minus below or over 6 catches?
6 catches would be a lot, right?
That's
I know that he was on the field for 24 snaps. 16 of those were actually run plays towards the back end of the game. Those 8 passes, we obviously saw where Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning wanted to go with the football with him in the route concepts, though. Does he see that many snaps? Are that many snaps available? Because let's not forget, Michigan's whole thing here is going to be condense the game. Don't give as many opportunities for Texas to see the field offensively, which means you won't see as many snaps. And as a result, to a degree, and Rod, maybe you can chime in on this as well, to a degree, you want your offense to play a little bit slower as well to kind of combat that, right? You don't want your offense to go out there and after a 6-minute drive in which Michigan kicks a field goal, you go out there and you go three and out and you take off 14 seconds, right? You don't want that to happen because then, your defense is on the field for 90% of the game, and that's just not a recipe for success, regardless of the temperature. So I think 6 is a lot. I think if you see anybody with 6 catches this weekend for Texas, I think, again, that'll be Isaiah Bond, just the way that we saw Texas try to utilize him down the field in the scheme early. He's that number 1 guy for me. But I do think Wingo will get his, and I do think Sark will, kind of dial up something for him because why would he not? He's his shiny freshman toy. We got Texas has a pretty good fresh 2025 wide receiver class in there. They're trying to attract some more guys. Why not come out there and say, hey, through 2 games, this guy's been our leading receiver and he has a big play against Michigan. That's a great recruiting tool. But I think 6 is a lot. So, but Rod, real quick, let me get your thoughts on that. Because, as a defensive back, you're running all over the place. And I know Michigan maybe won't be in the routes as much, but when you're on the field for a 5, 6, 7 minute drive and you're lingering around, you're getting tired out there, and all of a sudden you get a stop and you're off the field for a little bit, you get the TV timeout, and then the offense goes out there, and before you know it, you're having to put your helmet back on for punt. How exhausting does that get?
Oh, man. It depends on the offense you're facing, right? If you're facing an offense that wants to throw the rock and they got you running vertical routes down the field, that it can wear you out. I remember facing them air raid offenses, going up tempo, and constantly they got some guys running the same routes over and over again. And sometimes that route is like, nah, man, that guy's running the 9 route. He's running the 9 route. And you're like, man, I'm exhausted, but you obviously can't lose focus because the quarterback, that may be the route he hits that time. I agree. It wears you down. That's why Sark is big on rotating guys, keeping guys fresh. He wants fresh legs in there. Against a team like, Michigan, DB shouldn't wear down too much. I mean, they're not testing your vertical. You're not running with speed demons. It's a short, quick passing game. I would think that your starting DBs, at least your frontline starters, should be able to play more in this game. You're not a big body, the front 7 guys. You need to be rotating those guys heavily to keep them fresh because they're gonna need it. Their guys, they're gonna be playing bully ball. That's gonna be a fist fight in the phone booth for all them dudes every damn down. But the guys on the back end, I think the secondary guys should be able, especially with the weather. It says it's gonna be like in the 60s or something like that. Those guys should be able to play more snaps. I would be very surprised if Jahdae Barron and Taff or Malik Muhammad, the guys you consider your starters in the secondary, if they're heavily rotated in this game. I'd be really surprised if that is the case.
Good deal.
Yeah. Okay. Before we got a Sark sound. So we're talking about wide receivers. We got a Sark sound, Sark piece of audio that we'll get to because he addressed the wide receiver position. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. We're really grateful that Flat Creek Estate is a part of the On Texas football family. And did you know that the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin, Texas? That's right. Our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend, perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with that very special significant other. You can go check them out for yourself at flatcreekestate.com, or you can go check them out also at Specs. And I happen to know personally that they're at Central Market as well. My wife does some shopping there, and she saw her favorite wine, Super Texan, at Central Market. She was really excited. So they also have that great Flat Creek display there at Central Market and at Specs. So go check it out for yourself. That's flatcreekestate.com. We really appreciate them sponsoring the winning drive. All right, let's hear from Steve Sarkisian one more time. This time he's talking about the wide receiver depth. And this is something that's been a hot topic on the 40 Acres for months now. And I think after what we saw in the Colorado State game, all the Longhorn fans out there are very optimistic about what this wide receiver room could accomplish or could be, especially with everybody seemed to contribute. It seems like you had Bond, you had Golden, you had Bolden, also scored a touchdown. Ryan Wingo showed up as well. So they are indeed very, very deep at that position. So here is Steve Sarkisian and the Zoom availability with the media talking about the depth of that wide receiver room. Here is Steve Sarkisian.
I still think we're a little bit of a work in progress in that, we have one game sample size, and even at that, it was a little bit limited just because of how the game went. But I will say it was comforting to know that I didn't have to leave guys on the field as they were getting fatigued, as you could noticeably see them getting fatigued, that we had enough confidence in the next wave or the guy behind that guy to put him on the field. And all they did was give me even more confidence, whether it was Ryan Wingo, Jonte Cook, Silas Bolden. I mean, when those guys went on the field, they made their plays. And so I think it's very comforting for us as a staff to know that we have 6 really quality receivers that can play at a high level. The moment never felt too big for any of them. I love kind of having cross-train Ryan Niblet because of the fact that he can do things out of the backfield and at receiver. And so it gives us a lot of versatility that way to still pour into our 21 package stuff, but also, have the ability to play in 11 and to do both those things. So, again, as we continue to grow throughout the season, I think time will tell, but going into week 2, I think the biggest thing I got out of it was just confidence in all of those guys that when they're on the field, they're going to play well. I still think we're a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. That's Steve Sarkisian talking about the depth in that wide receiver room. And once again, he brings up Ryan Niblet. is bringing up Ryan Niblet as another kind of additive element to that wide receiver. We're talking about cross-training him. That is, like I said, that's relatively new. We've only heard more about that since, the injuries at running back, and now him being spoken of by Steve Sarkisian as a guy that cross-training and someone they could use in that pony package that I've been obsessed with for a few years. What are your thoughts there, CJ, about, Sark talking more about Ryan Niblet as being a part of that group too? I think it's interesting because now we're seeing cross-training going on now on both sides of the ball. We've seen it on defense, talk about a lot, versatility in the defensive backfield, cross-training guys in that manner. And now we're hearing a lot about it now on the offensive side of the ball with Ryan Niblet.
Yeah, I think it's great, right? It's just another example of that versatility and depth that Texas is trying to build in its program. And, for Niblet, a guy who, let's be honest here a little bit, right? Sarkisian mentioned in the beginning of that clip right there, they feel really good about 6 wide receivers, and Niblet wasn't mentioned in that group. I know earlier in fall camp, he kind of stretched that to 7 to an extent, including Niblet. Well, He said, as a result of some unfortunate injuries in this room, we've had to move him to running back, and he's shined a little bit. He got a couple carries against Colorado State. I have the numbers here. 3 carries, 12 yards. He had 1 catch, -2 yards on a kind of a busted blocking play on a jet motion right in front of him. But you see them trying to implement him at some point. Sarkisian also mentioned 22 miles per hour for Niblet.
Yeah.
In real game speed, Rod. That tough to teach that, right? You can teach a guy where to be and how to tackle and how to catch a football. But at the end of the day, running 22 miles an hour, you're going to find a way onto the field. So whether it be at receiver, whether it be at running back, regardless, special teams is going to be an option for him anyways. It just adds to that depth right now, but also that speed is going to be a big factor. Because if you have a guy on your bench right now running 22 miles an hour, and you can't really find a way for him to get onto the field, what does that say about the guys who are on the field? And I think that's, again, the biggest differentiator between Texas right now and their skill players and Michigan. Quick stat: Texas on Saturday against Colorado State, 259 yards after the catch from their wide receivers. Michigan had 60, almost 200 full yards more of yards after the catch ability from Texas than what Michigan showed. And listen, that's kind of the big question mark I have for Michigan is where does that explosivity come on offense if it's not in the running game? And I don't have an answer. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I feel trickery early on. I do. I'm feeling double moves, stalk blocking goals. They got to loosen up this Texas defense somehow and make them pay for being overly aggressive. So that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of how they're going to do it, try to use some deception in some way. All right. Yeah, and Coach, what are your thoughts? I mean, wide receiver position better than anybody. It's in your genes. You got good genetics for the wide receiver position. What are your thoughts about the depth Texas has at wide receiver, and how deep do they go versus Michigan? This is different than Colorado State, where you let everybody, get reps. Do we see six different receivers?
Yeah, I think so. I think you are, but going back to Ryan Wingo, I think his over and under is probably at 4, maybe, maybe even 3, because you've got, as we talked about before, you've got DeAndre Moore, who played 23 snaps, didn't have 1 ball thrown to him, and so those guys want the ball, and don't think that they're probably not sending it to the coach, but they're probably sending it to the quarterbacks, that they keep score. They see the stats. They know what's going on. So I know DeAndre is going to want to try to get his hand on the ball a couple of times this week, and I'm sure Sark wants him to get his hands on the ball, as obviously he does Ryan Niblet too. But I'm interested to see what DeAndre Moore can do. I want to see more from John Tate Cook, of course, and Ryan Wingo. I think is certainly capable of 6 balls a game. That's no big deal. But when you've got 7 receivers like we have against a team that's probably going to limit your offensive possessions, I don't think that you're going to see eye-popping stats from our receivers this week.
Yeah. And they're going up against one of the best defenses in the country. So if you can, whatever you can do against Michigan, you probably can do that against anybody in the country. And I think it's going to be Texas throwing the football a little bit. We'll get back to your questions here, guys. Thank you guys for your questions, and we appreciate them. Before we get to a special guest here. Let me tell you about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. That's right, folks. Get in the game. Football season is finally here. The NFL kicks off tonight. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. How does it work? It's really simple. It's really easy. All you do is download the Underdog app, which I've already downloaded. Got it on my phone right now. Or you can go online. Just takes almost no time. Playing their pick 'em game, I can make my picks, submit them. Takes me 60 to 90 seconds at the least. But if I really want to go in detail, want to do some deep diving, I can make as many as 8 picks in a single entry to win up to 325 times my money. Underdog adds a ton of excitement to your sports viewing experience, especially for football, which is personally why I'm such a big fan of Underdog. And the best part is you can watch your progress update in real time. Today, Underdog is hooking you up for the start of football season officially. Go to underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code on Texas. That's right, folks. Use the promo code on Texas for a first deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. They also have an additional site-wide Travis Kelce free pick that'll be available until NFL kickoff tonight. All right, so we're going to make sure that you take advantage while you can. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code on Texas right now for a first deposit offer of up to $1,000 and 2 free picks if you count that Travis Kelce free pick. That's Underdog Fantasy, our choice and the choice for daily fantasy. Speaking of daily fantasy, we got one of my friends and probably the best fantasy mind I know to come on and give us a little update about the game tonight, because a lot of fantasy football fans are excited about the kickoff to the NFL season between the Ravens and the Chiefs. So we're bringing on my man Matt Butler, who's now a part of the On Texas football family, and I'm hosting actually the Underdog Fantasy Football Show with my man Matt Butler. You can catch that tomorrow. We'll have that posted. Matt, how you doing, brother?
Doing pretty well, man. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. I know you're excited about the start of the season. A lot of Longhorn fans who, following their Longhorns at the NFL level. Xavier Worthy in action tonight. It's going to be catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. It's official. Give your thoughts about because what I love about Underdog, one of the simplest ways, right, to get involved with Underdog Fantasy is just the higher lowers. They're really easy, really simple. And they'll pick receptions, yards, touchdowns, and they give you a number, and you just got to pick whether it's going to be higher or lower for that player. And Xavier Worthy's got some pretty interesting ones.
Yeah, I really like Worthy because we saw his involvement in the preseason, and it was really high. You know, you had 12 dropbacks in the game Mahomes played. He had 2 throwaways and then 4 targets to Worthy. So you're talking a 33% target share there, which is really high. Then with the second unit right after that, Carson Wentz came in, 3 plays, touchdown to Worthy, and only 2 passing plays went to Worthy on that drive. So, his target share in that game when he was playing with 1s and 2s was 40%. So numbers look really good. You combine that, him and Rashee Rice really going to take up a large share. We saw sort of the snaps come down last year for Kelce. We also saw regular season usage not nearly as high, trying to sort of preserve them the way you would see the Patriots or the Spurs or these teams that know what they have going and need to be healthy late in the year. So early in the year, really like players like Worthy. Worthy's fantasy points at 8.5 high. Now on Underdog, it ends up being that you get a half point per reception, not a full point, but still Worthy with his yards, every 10 yards you get 1. So if you look at it, if you just put out 3 to 4 targets, if he catches 3 of those balls, you add on top of that the equity you get with him in the red zone. He had a red zone rush on that drive also. Also had a target right after that. He fumbled, but then they targeted him immediately after him, so weren't afraid to go to him, and then hit him in the end zone after the fumble on the next drive. So I think they're going to be feeding the ball to Worthy. So I don't think you can go wrong with the higher on just receptions or on yards. It's like 3.5, 46.5. But when you get to encapsulate it all together in addition to touchdowns, if he just catches 1 touchdown pass for 15 yards, you're almost to that fantasy point level of 8.5. So I like fantasy points, and you can play around with the other ones.
Real quick before we let you go, where's you talked about this primetime bash and the primetime palooza. Can you explain that real quick before we let you go, and for the people who really are into it?
Yeah, if you want to draft just like a snake draft, the way you do with your friends at home, you pick a quarterback, a running back, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a utility. Well, inside there, it's just for the game today and the game tomorrow with Green Bay and Philly. Now, Green Bay and Philly, both worse defenses, better offenses, so a better fantasy environment there. But you got to have a player from both teams. So if you look at the situation, Worthy's a guy I got at 16th overall in the 4th round. I had the first pick in that one, was able to drop down because you're going to have your quarterbacks go quickly, your running backs go quickly. 2 other drafts, I got him late 3rd round where it was 12th, 13th overall around there. So if you don't have that first pick, you might have to take him in the 3rd, but he's going in the 4th. I think it's really worth hopping on there. And it's really simple way to draft. You just pick your favorite players and watch the game that night. We'll talk more about it tomorrow for this weekend because NFL Week 1 has Cowboys and Texans on the slate.
Yeah, me and Matt going to do our underdog fantasy show. We'll have that posted tomorrow. We're going to detail, a lot more detail about some of these contests. And we'll also go into some detail about the NFL weekend coming up. So thank you, Matt. Appreciate the insight, brother. We always appreciate all of your nuggets of information. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Will do. Y'all have fun.
Thanks, Matt.
My man, Matt Butler. Like I said, I don't think anybody knows fantasy sports better than my man, Matt Butler. And if you want to participate in fantasy sports, Underdog Fantasy is the spot, folks. So go check it out for yourself. I'll get that Underdog Fantasy app. I have it. It's really easy and it's really fun. We'll add a lot of enjoyment to your viewing experience.
Rod, Matt was saying you got to take the over and Xavier Worthy catches tonight. I'm already on it, and I also got Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals. That's nice. Found free money right there. Justin Tucker, if he lines up for 2 kicks, go ahead and put 6 points on the board because he's the greatest of all time. So that's what we got. I'm excited for the NFL season to come back as well.
I know, I'm with you. I feel like that 3.5 receptions is easy, and I feel like that 46.5 receiving yards too. I feel like if you're going to get to the 3.5 receptions, he's definitely going to get close to 46.5 receiving yards. So really excited about Xavier Worthy being unveiled as a weapon for Patrick Mahomes. I'm a Texans fan and a Longhorn fan, so I love this, but I also hate this too because it ain't good for my Texans. All right, let's get back to some of the questions here before we get out of here. How about this one from Kyle? Kyle says, hey, Rod, what if Sark doesn't even try to run the ball and use the short pass game as an extension of the run game? Are there routes that can consistently beat zone coverage? Yeah, there are, zone beaters. There are cover 3 beaters. There are cover 2 beaters. They'll cover 4 beaters. Different and Sark, I'm sure, obviously has those kind of baked into the game plan. Whatever Michigan likes to run. The thing with Wink Martindale's system is his disguise and him trying to disguise it and then trying to identify exactly what covers they're in before the pressure gets there. That would be the conundrum. But I agree with you, Kyle. I've said it, and I would not abandon the run. I wouldn't take it out in the backyard and bury it. But I would lead with the pass. I would lead. I think that's the strength, Coach. I don't think Michigan stays up nights worrying about your run game. I think Michigan stays up nights worrying about how they're going to defend all those weapons in the pass game. And I would lead with my opponent's fear. That's what I lead with.
And RPOs are for zone coverages. That's just kind of what our passing game is based on, And so I don't mind the zone coverage at all. I think Sark's going to be licking his chops if he sees zone coverage a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Quinn will be too, Coach.
Yeah.
You've seen him in the past diagnose and dissect some of those, key 3 high looks. And I don't think Michigan's going to roll out a 3 high look, but if they do, hey, Sark's prepared, Quinn's prepared. They've seen it before. If they stay too high or even spin to a cover 1 look, again, good luck. I think Quinn's going to have a good day on Saturday.
Yeah, and if you're talking about man, some people run zone on one side and man on the other side. He's got to read that side, of course. But I don't think you're going to see straight man across.
Hey, Coach, now that you bring that up, remember Sark said that's what happened on the interception, too. He said it was a combo coverage. Quinn diagnosing it. It took a little while to process. If you're in Michigan, that's what you're hoping for. That's what you want. You want him to just take an extra half a second to process it. Then you get home, apply some pressure, and then maybe you can kind of cause some chaos that'll work out in your favor. So, no, you're right. A good point there, Kyle, and good stuff there, Coach. Yeah, about the RPO. Sark runs an RPO-based passing game. That's what he calls it. That'll match up really well with zone coverage they try to run. And if they want to run man, well, hell, every wide receiver and every quarterback loves man coverage. Easy to diagnose. Easy to beat there if you got the dogs to do it. UT boy, what's up, UT boy? Hey, good to see you, man. I thought something had happened to you. I've just been on the road traveling. Over under, UT Boy says they can cross the 50 on UT. Yeah, I think they'll. I think they'll get some favorable field position just because of their defense alone and special teams, right, Coach? That's kind of what they depend on for their offense, that they can steal some hidden yardage on special teams, stop you deep in your own territory, and then win the field position battle. And at one point, give themselves favorable field position so they can cross the 50. But UT Boy, are they going to do it with a vertical passing game? I don't know how. I don't think they're going to do it that way. I think they'll cross the 50, but I don't know if they'll do it by throwing the football vertically downfield, because that's just not what they do. It'll be the run game working, cross fingers, turnover. Hopefully it's not a turnover, but it could be. Special teams play could happen that way. Like I said, the run game's working. One thing we don't talk a lot about, Coach, but turnovers can flip this game quickly.
Yeah, and I want to say timeout. UT Boy, we love you, man. You know we all love you, dude, but come on. We're playing the defending national champions, and we're throwing out there, are they going to cross the 50-yard line? We ain't there yet, guys. As much as we would like to think we're there, we are not there yet. Okay? So they will cross the 50-yard line, and they may cross it many times. That's okay. I just want to win the game. When it's all said and done, I want to win it. But we are playing the defending national champions with 3 of the 5 best defensive players probably coming back in the country. So hang on.
The voice of reason. That's it.
Coach, don't drink that Kool-Aid. Coach, they want to drink that Kool-Aid. Let them drink it. It may be rat poison.
You see, that's a lot of Kool-Aid got drank and got choked on. I've been choking on the Kool-Aid since 2010. Okay, so I deserve to be a little bit snarky sometimes. Of course, we've all been choking on the Kool-Aid for decades, probably.
Yeah, you thought it was Kool-Aid. It was Flavor Aid. It was that fake stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't even
real Kool-Aid.
It was the cheap stuff.
That was that cheap stuff, man. All right, CJ, sorry. Go ahead, brother. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, UT Boy. We appreciate that. No, I appreciate Coach with being the voice of reason there. You're right, Coach. I don't know if we should be that arrogant yet, but the defense, I do think, is going to surprise some folks, just like they did in the Colorado State game. I'll throw it out there. Wayne says, best strategy to keep Loveland under 60 yards and unsuccessful on third down plays. My strategy would be to, if first of all, if they can't handle them. I kind of agree with Coach in this sense that if you ended up being able to handle them, great, but have a plan immediately if he starts to hurt you. Hell, if he gets, one big catch, I would have a plan immediately, a plan of action for him. And honestly, it would involve, they keep talking about how Ja'Day Barron is really versatile, and they planned on him playing nickel, safety, and corner in that game versus Colorado State. Why not in this game, depending on how they want to use and deploy Loveland formationally, why not have him at safety or at nickel, being able to defend Loveland in situations? He's one of your thicker DBs, and Loveland's big, man. He's like 6'5". He's a load. He can box you out, play big boy, go up and, get jump balls, and they'll probably use him in that way. So I want a DB that's a little bit thicker or longer, a ranger. I don't mind Derek Williams in that role. I think Makuba might be a little undersized. Maybe Taft Daddy is a little undersized to go up against them. So I'm not hating on those guys, just looking at the matchup. So I think moving Ja'Day Barron around actually would help you in this situation, especially on third downs. Why not have them matched up against their best weapon in the passing game versus your best DB, versus unless you put Malik Muhammad on them, which would also be great, but one of your best coverage DBs too.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Texas, we look at the most recent, 5 games Texas has played dating back to last year. There really hasn't been a big time tight end threat, right? Washington had all the wide receivers. Yeah. Texas Tech had a good running back. I'm not sure they had much else after that. Oklahoma State, they had the good running back. They didn't have much else after that. Where can Texas look back to say, yeah, you remember having to play against so-and-so, that big tight end guy? That's who we can replicate going up against this in practice. And I can tell you right now, it's Jordan Washington who's getting a lot of those scout team looks, giving Texas defensively a great look at what's to come and kind of that, preferential treatment defensively of how to defend against a guy like Colston Loveland. But, it was Sarkisian who said, we haven't played anybody like Michigan in their game style. They don't have, a run and gun kind of, let's run the football all together. Let's throw it to the tight end. He said, we really have to go back, me and PK collectively, to the Stanford days with Coach Shaw and Coach Harbaugh back then to kind of get an idea of that style of football, because they just haven't seen it. I think the closest that you could point to was in Iowa State, but even the last 2 times that Texas had played Iowa State, I think, those 2 quarterbacks, was it Rocco Becht and Hunter Deckers? I think they combined for about 700 passing yards and only 39 rush yards. So like there, you can't really compare what Michigan will bring to anything Texas has really seen in the Big 12 of late. So it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be something that we haven't seen at all before.
Yeah, that's a good point too about going all the way back to David Shaw. That's what makes hardball ball so unique. Nobody has a brand of football like that at elite levels, like because it's not a modern offense. It's more of a old school offense, but man, it can really be problematic for you if you don't match up well against it. UT Boy says, "You thirsty, coach? Because I got the Kool-Aid." Boom!
Yeah, but this 63 years on this earth, your daddy here's learned when to drink and when to hold off.
I like that. That was a nice comeback, UT Boy. I like that. I don't like orange Kool-Aid, though. I'll say that is the worst of all the Kool-Aids. I don't know about orange Kool-Aid, man. I'll take the red and the purple. I don't like the orange Kool-Aid. All right, Tyler, this is a question from earlier in the show. Thank you, Tyler, for it. Says, won't it be awesome? This will be the second year in a row where Texas has the opportunity to end a home win streak. Did it at Bama, ending a 59-game non-SEC opponent win streak and about to end Michigan's. Jeff, for those who have not heard the Michigan streaks that are on the line versus Texas, I'll just kind of go over them for you. Okay, so they're basically Michigan, in addition to the fact that Michigan has won its last 29 regular season games. It also has they've won its last 16 consecutive games overall. The Wolverines also boast the second longest home winning streak in the nation at 23 consecutive wins, third longest stretch in program history, and the longest since 1969 through 73 under Bo Schembechler. So there you go. That's a pretty long streak. 23 consecutive wins at home for the Michigan Wolverines. So they don't lose at home very often. It just don't happen. To go in there and beat them would be a big thing.
Yeah, they sure don't. And I want, we've seen a few Michigan fans in the chat here. I want to say welcome to On Texas Football, right? Because it's been a fun week leading up. There's Maze Madman. Les Austin, I see you in the comments. We had Ewell last night on a couple of the live streams. Listen, welcome to On Texas Football. We're inviting. I hope that you guys are excited for this game, just as Texas fans are, because this is part of what makes college football so exciting, is getting to play, programs and teams and fan bases that you don't normally get to play, and to do so with, kind of the stakes at where they're at with 2 top 10 teams. Sign me up. I'm all for it. So it'll be a blast.
It will be a blast. All right, let's get. Yeah, I want to know what they're going to do with Alex Orji. So any of you Michigan guys and gals out there in the chat, if y'all have information on what they're going to do with Alex Orji, please let us know, because I am very interested on what they're going to do with him. All right, getting back to the questions here. Ryan from Shiner.
To have a party.
They might be trying to
after game party, whatever you do with the guy at orgy. I don't know.
Well done, Coach. I got it. That went right over me. Well done, Coach. I got you. That was not only a dad joke, but a dirty dad joke. There you go.
I don't like those.
There you go. I appreciate it, Coach. All right, Ryan from Shiner says, can y'all break down the Wink Martindale defense, blitz heavy, man-to-man? How do we attack it? It's more sophisticated than just him, bringing extra guys. He has zone blitzes. He's got a zone blitz is just that you blitz and then it's a zone behind it. He's got simulated pressures, which looks like a blitz, smells like a blitz, feels like a blitz, walks like one, talks like one, but it ain't one. A blitz is when you send at least 5 guys, and a simulated pressure is when you send 3 or 4. But it looks like a blitz so that the quarterback sets the blitz protection, and then you confuse the blocking schemes. That's kind of the point of that. So he's got simulated pressures. He's got 0 blitzes, which are from what I hear, most quarterbacks are hell on quarterbacks because, obviously guys are man to man, but zero blitz. There are not enough blockers to account for everybody that's rushing. So every now and then he'll send a zero blitz all out, and you got to be able to identify as a quarterback, get the ball out quickly. So you'll see that. And I think most of his just traditional blitzes are just a single high blitz with a single high safety and trying to match up. But he will, I think, at Texas, because against Patrick Mahomes, I remember Wink Martindale saying this. He said when he first faced Patrick Mahomes, they blitzed him a lot. And he said they hit him like 18 times or something like that the first time they played him. But the next time they played him, when he was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, he had become such a great quarterback in eyeing the blitz, identifying it, getting the ball out quickly, that he said we did more simulated pressures, that their blitz rate dropped significantly. Quinn actually isn't bad versus the blitz. He's actually pretty good versus the blitz. I think it cleans up his picture. And if he identifies it quickly, he's got the release and he can make any throw from all these awkward arm angles. So he's actually pretty good versus the blitz. He's not good like all quarterbacks versus pressure. And that's the difference with Quinn. If you can get pressure on him, then, he's a lot of his metrics, they seem to derail with pressure. Even last game versus Colorado State, they didn't get a lot of pressure, but the 2 plays they got pressure led to a sack and an interception. Wink Martindale will be hoping to get 12 to 15 plays where he gets pressure on Quinn, and let's see if let the chips fall where they may. Maybe we get 5 plays like that where he has an interception or a sack. That's enough to flip the game in Michigan's favor. Yeah. That's what Wink Martindale wants to do. But it's more sophisticated than just him blitzing. But nobody has been more blitz heavy at the college or the pro level in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, probably than Wink Martindale. He's been 3rd, 1st, 6th, 1st, and 2nd in blitz rate the last 6 years in the NFL. So
yeah, Rod, I was looking up the PFF numbers on Quinn under pressure versus when he's kept clean, and pretty significantly different, I would say. When kept clean, completes his passes at 72%, throws 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Under pressure on 68 attempts, 1 touchdown, and he completes just about 51 to 52% of his attempts. So I would say that's pretty substantial. Fortunately, and again, this is a big test for that offensive line, but to have that experience up front, 4 out of 5 returning, the 5th one just named co-offensive MVP co-offensive lineman of the week for the SEC. It's going to be a big test, right? You look at Derek Moore, you look at Josiah Stewart. Those are the 2 guys that you have to defend against in the pass protection game. The 2 guys up front, we know how good they are in terms of their run stopping ability, but very similar to what we saw with Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat a year ago, they can get pressure up the middle on the passing game, and it will affect Quinn. But how consistently can you rely on it? Well, a game-changing edge like a Moore and like Stewart, who combined for a sack and 8 pressures against Fresno State, those are the guys that you're really going to have your hands full to keep them away and keep that pocket clean for Quinn Ewers.
New York Giants, the last place where Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator. Their coverages break down to cover 1, 30% of the time, cover 3, 30% of the time, cover 4, around 13%, cover 6, around 8%. The least of popular coverage or least deployed was cover 2. It's around 5%. So you'll get it all. You'll get the fire zones, split field coverages like Coach mentioned. You'll get the combo coverages, safety trap 2. You'll get, as I mentioned, you'll get the simulated pressures. It's a pretty sophisticated scheme. And the worst part for Texas, the guys there know how to run it because they've been running it when they were under Mike McDonald, who's now the DC at Seattle, and they were running the same thing under Mentor as well, who's now the DC with Jim Harbaugh in LA. It's the same system. Wink Martindale is just a grandfather of it. He's one of the godfathers of this system. They were running variations of it, modern variations of it. Now they're running more of the original. They had cover versions of the Wink Martindale defense. This is the original version of the Wink Martindale defense. All right, getting back to a couple of questions. I know we're getting close to ending it here, so we appreciate you guys sticking with us. AJJ says over under 1.5 footballs on Texcalibur this Saturday. Turnovers is going to be big. I mean, last year Michigan led the country, guys, in turnover margin. They were top 5 in takeaways last season. They were top 5 in interceptions last season. They got 2 interceptions in the game versus Fresno State. Really opportunistic defense. What are we thinking? How many turnovers we going to see Texcalibur stab on Saturday?
Coach, go for it. I know that they've been practicing the stabbing in practice, so hopefully, they'll have a little bit of a shot to put that into the game.
That's a tough one, but I'll go with. I'm going to be Mr. Optimistic here and go for over.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. I think if Texas forces 2 turnovers, that's enough to win the football game, right? We've talked about the explosivity, the offensive firepower for both teams. Michigan taking away the ball for Texas is going to be very key for them. I said earlier on Twitter, and this might have been a little facetious, but the only way I really see an offense led by, Davis Warren beating Texas is if they force 3 turnovers. That's the only way that Oklahoma beat Texas. In a way, that's the only way that Washington was able to beat Texas. Texas will score points, right? It's the turnovers that will kill them. And I think that's the only way right now that you prevent Texas from putting up too many points for that type of offense to overcome. So if Texas finds a way to win the turnover battle, hey, you might be looking at a much larger win than you would expect for a top 10 team on the road to play another top 10 team, right? But that's kind of just the makeup of these 2 teams and kind of where my dumb brain is leading me right now. So, Rod, I like the over. If you take 2 footballs away, that's great. But, hey, you got to do something with those turnovers, right? They can't just be for naught.
Yep. No, CJ's right, man. The 2 games Texas lost last year, big turnovers in critical moments. Whether talking about the Oklahoma game early on and put Texas a little bit behind, or you talking about that third quarter for Texas versus Washington. That's a really good point. All right, getting back to it. UT says, welcome back. UT boy says, welcome back, coach. He's UT boy always showing the love. Quentin says, this for CJ, double mug blitz is impossible. It's unstoppable. Unstoppable. So a double mug blitz is unstoppable. All right, there you go. I feel that's
right, bro. That's a college football 25 play. You got 6 guys on the defensive line. You just blitz them all, man coverage everywhere else. It's giving me fits. I've already broken controller over it. So you're right. It is unstoppable.
That's a good question, though. Do you run blitz at all in this game, Coach? Or are we just talking about gap integrity all the way through? Or is there some run blitzes where you're trying to knife into the backfield?
Wait, are we talking real football or little play football on our TV?
Little play football.
What are we talking here?
Talking
talking a real man's game, or are we talking what?
This is my life, Coach. This is real life.
Hey, CJ, I understand breaking that controller. That emotion feels real. That emotion you get when you're upset and frustrated, it is real. Vivek says, Rod, is Will Johnson really that great? He got beat a few times already this season. Is he so aggressive he's susceptible to a double move or fake screen? I'll say this about every great DB. It's the truth. They all get beat. The best ones get beat. They get beat. The best ones get beat, but also make plays on the football. If you got a really good defensive back going against a really good wide receiver, he's going to get beat. The passing game is too sophisticated these days. If you got a really good quarterback, that guy and the chemistry they have, the DB is already working at a disadvantage. But can he make plays on the ball? Can he make as many plays as he gives up? And I think Will Johnson, in terms of that definition, is still one of the better DBs in the country. But can Texas beat Will Johnson? Yes. Yes, they can. Yep. I watched Derek Stingley get toasted at LSU, but everybody kept telling me in practice he was locking down Jamar Chase and locking down Justin Jefferson. But I seen him get beat in the SEC, but he still got drafted, but top 5 in the league. Guys, it happens. Like it's DBs are gonna get beat. So he's still. I wouldn't make a living throwing against him. I'll throw it like that. Throw it the other guy. Who the other dude is. But he is susceptible to the double move. I did see that in the Fresno State game. Thank you, Vivek, for the question there. All right, let's thank our last sponsor before we get out of here. The good folks over at South Point Dodge. Longhorn fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. Score big today at South Point Dodge, and right now they have a great way for you to do it. You can get a great deal right now because you can shop over 50 Ram 2500 $2,500, all marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. Go to southpointdodge.com or go visit them in person off of I-35 in South Austin right now and go check it out for yourself. It is your one-stop shop at South Point Dodge. Go check it out, southpointdodge.com. We appreciate their support of the Winning Drive and being a part of the On Texas Football family. All right, gentlemen, and I believe that's it for today's Winning Drive. Thank you guys for all your participation. Thank you for all the super chats too, guys. Really appreciate you guys and the love. Jerron and It's 420 Somewhere and UT Boy, appreciate you. Quentin and all the other questions and comments. Your participation means a lot to us. Thank you to our sponsors, South Point Dodge. Thank you to our friends Hardgrove Roofing as well. Thank you to Underdog Fantasy, and thank you to our good friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Matthew behind the scenes, the real MVP, would not happen without him. He does all the hard work behind the scenes, and we appreciate Matthew. Thank you, Coach, for the time and the wisdom. Thank you, CJ, for everything you do, man. Hey, and be safe. CJ's traveling, so be safe, brother. Heading up there to Michigan, man. Be safe on the road. Pack that Connor Stallions costume for the people, too. All right, folks. Tomorrow, remember, we got Coffee and Football early in the morning. Oh, there it is. Coffee and Football early in the morning. We also got the live stream tomorrow. That'll be a 1 p.m. live stream. You don't want to miss that. Until next time, hook 'em horns.